Offer to you to restore to this state several citizens who perhaps in your eyes have lost that sacred title. I offer you them, however, such as you could wish to find them, ready to exert their utmost efforts in defense of the country. This point of Louisiana which I occupy is of great importance in the present crisis. I tender my services to defend it, and the only reward I ask is that a stop be put to the proscription against me and my adherents, by an act of oblivion, for all that has been done hitherto. I am the stray sheep wishing to return to the fold. If you are thoroughly acquainted with the nature of my offences, I should appear to you much less guilty, and still worthy to discharge the duties of a good citizen. I have never sailed under any flag but that of the Republic of Carthagena, and my vessels are perfectly regular in that respect. If I could have brought my lawful prizes into the ports of this state, I should not have employed the illicit means that have caused me to be proscribed. I decline saying more on the subject until I have the honour of your Excellency's answer, which I am persuaded can be dictated only by wisdom. Should your answer not be favourable to my ardent desires, I declare to you that I will instantly leave the country to avoid the imputation of having cooperated towards an invasion on this point which cannot fail to take place, and to rest secure in the acquittal of my conscience. I have the honour to be your Excellency's, etc., J. Lafitte. The contents of these letters do honour to Lafitte's judgment, and evince his sincere attachment to the American cause. On the receipt of this package from Lafitte, Mr. Blanc immediately laid its contents before the Governor, who convened the Committee of Defence lately formed, of which he was President, and Mr. Rancher, the bearer of Lafitte's packet, was sent back with a verbal answer to desire Lafitte to take no steps until it should be determined what was expedient to be done. The message also contained an assurance that, in the meantime, no steps should be taken against him for his past offences against the laws of the United States. At the expiration of the time agreed on with Captain Lockyer, his ship appeared again on the coast with 2 others, and continued standing off and on before the pass for several days. But he pretended not to perceive the return of the sloop of war, who, tired of waiting to no purpose, put out to sea and disappeared. Lafitte, having received a guarantee from General Jackson for his safe passage from Barataria to New Orleans and back, he proceeded forthwith to the city, where he had an interview with Governor Claiborne and the General. After the usual formalities and courtesies had taken place between these gentlemen, Lafitte addressed the Governor of Louisiana nearly as follows: "I have offered to defend for you that part of Louisiana I now hold, but not as an outlaw would I be its defender. In that confidence with which you have inspired me, I offer to restore to the state many citizens now under my command. As I have remarked before, the point I occupy is of great importance in the present crisis. I tender not only my own services to defend it, but those of all I command, and the only reward I ask is that a stop be put to the proscription against me and my adherents by an act of oblivion for all that has been done hitherto." "My dear sir," said the Governor, who together with General Jackson was impressed with admiration of his sentiments, "your praiseworthy wishes shall be laid before the Council of the State, and I will confer with my august friend here present upon this important affair, and send you an answer tomorrow." As Lafitte withdrew, the General said, "Farewell. When we meet again, I trust it will be in the ranks of the American army." The result of the conference was the issuing of the following order: The Governor of Louisiana, informed that many individuals implicated in the offences heretofore committed against the United States at Barataria express a willingness at the present crisis to enroll themselves and march against the enemy, he does hereby invite them to join the standard of the United States, and is authorized to say, should their conduct in the field meet the approbation of the Major General, that that officer will unite with the Governor in a request to the President of the United States to extend to each and every individual so marching and acting a free and full pardon. These general orders were placed in the hands of Lafitte, who circulated them amongst his dispersed followers, most of whom readily embraced the conditions of pardon they held out. In a few days many brave men and skilful artillerists, whose services contributed greatly to the safety of the invaded state, flocked to the standard of the United States, and by their conduct received the highest approbation of General Jackson. By the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. Among the many evils produced by the wars, which with little intermission have afflicted Europe and extended their ravages into other quarters of the globe for a period exceeding 20 years, the dispersion of a considerable portion of the inhabitants of different countries in sorrow and in want has not been the least injurious to human happiness, nor the least severe in the trial of human virtue. It has been long ascertained that many foreigners, flying from the dangers of their own home, and that some citizens, forgetful of their duty, had cooperated in forming an establishment on the island of Barataria, near the mouth of the river Mississippi, for the purpose of a clandestine and lawless trade. The government of the United States caused the establishment to be broken up and destroyed, and, having obtained the means of designating the offenders of every description, it only remained to answer the demands of justice by inflicting an exemplary punishment. But it has since been represented that the offenders have manifested a sincere penitence, that they have abandoned the prosecution of the worst cause for the support of the best, and particularly that they have exhibited in the defense of New Orleans unequivocal traits of courage and fidelity. Offenders who have refused to become the associates of the enemy in the war upon the most seducing terms of invitation, and who have aided to repel his hostile invasion of the territory of the United States, can no longer be considered as objects of punishment, but as objects of a generous forgiveness. It has therefore been seen with great satisfaction that the General Assembly of the State of Louisiana earnestly recommend those offenders to the benefit of a full pardon, and in compliance with that recommendation, as well as in consideration of all the other extraordinary circumstances in the case, I, James Madison, President of the United States of America, do issue this proclamation, hereby granting, publishing, and declaring a free and full pardon of all offences committed in violation of any act or acts of the Congress of the said United States, touching the revenue, trade, and navigation thereof, or touching the intercourse and commerce of the United States with foreign nations, at any time before the 8th day of January in the present year 1815, by any person or persons whatsoever, being inhabitants of New Orleans and the adjacent country, or being inhabitants of the said island of Barataria and the places adjacent, provided that every person claiming the benefit of this full pardon in order to entitle himself thereto, shall produce a certificate in writing from the governor of the state of Louisiana, stating that such person has aided in the defense of New Orleans and the adjacent country during the invasion thereof as aforesaid. And I do hereby further authorize and direct all suits, indictments, and prosecutions for fines, penalties, and forfeitures against any person or persons who shall be entitled to the benefit of this full pardon, forthwith to be stayed, discontinued, and released. All civil officers are hereby required, according to the duties of their respective stations, to carry this proclamation into immediate and faithful execution. Done at the city of Washington, the 6th day of February, in the year 1815, and of the independence of the United States the 39th. By the President, James Madison. James Monroe, Acting Secretary of State. The morning of the 8th of January was ushered in with the discharge of rockets, the sound of cannon, and the cheers of the British soldiers advancing to the attack. The Americans behind the breastwork awaited in calm intrepidity their approach. The enemy advanced in close column of 60 men in front, shouldering their muskets and carrying fascines and ladders. A storm of rockets preceded them, and an incessant fire opened from the battery, which commanded the advanced column. The musketry and rifles from the Kentuckians and Tennesseans joined the fire of the artillery, and in a few moments was heard along the line a ceaseless rolling fire whose tremendous noise resembled the continued reverberation of thunder. One of these guns, a 24-pounder, placed upon the breastwork in the third embrasure from the river, drew, from the fatal skill and activity with which it was managed, even in the heat of battle, the admiration of both Americans and British, and became one of the points most dreaded by the advancing foe. Here were stationed Lafitte and his lieutenant Dominique, and a large band of his men, who, during the continuance of the battle, fought with unparalleled bravery. The British already had been twice driven back in the utmost confusion, with the loss of their commander-in-chief and 2 general officers. 2 other batteries were manned by the Barratarians, who served their pieces with the steadiness and precision of veteran gunners. In the first attack